everyone, welcome to today's female leadership workshop. For today's workshop, we divide into two different parts for sharing and hearing. For first part, we invited Gloria to give us the specific qualification of the sharing. We choose one popular skill. We think that it can express the effectiveness of the leadership. And for a second part, we choose the hearing. We invited some successful female leaders to give us share their personal experience and some suggestions to the graduates. So now let me pass my mic to Gloria. Welcome, Gloria.
Thank you, Joanna. So you're all welcome once again. And in today's seminar, as Joanna has already stated, is about female leadership skills. And with the skills part, we had a chat with few females and males in the industries, different industries via LinkedIn. And on the next slide, you can see the chat between Joanna and most of the people we had the discussions with. And not to waste time, I'll read just one or two and then summarize it. So for Alexander, he thinks that as a leader, you need certain skills. And he thinks that communication skills and presentation skills is very important. When you check on the left side, when you check on the left side from Karilam, Joanna contacted, and then you can see that she also said presentation skills and communication skills. So in summary, we can say that based on the interviews and discussions we had with all these people who are prominent in the industry, we believe that generally you need to have an open speech, which means communication skills is very important. So why this? Going to the next slide. Why are these for females so important? We know that females like you and myself, we find different difficulties when we want to climb the career ladder. And one of it is stereotyping. And this stereotyping affect our personality and our competence. You know, when people look down on us, we feel like we are not adequate enough. And the second one is gender discrimination, as we all know. And this also inhibits our promotion. And the last but not the least is that when it comes to the career ladder, most females or women in the senior leadership positions are just few, which means there is a problem which needs to be addressed. Hence, we organizing this seminar. Going to the next slide. Now we know the problem. So we have to watch a video, but I'll just quickly introduce the video. And this is the COO of Facebook. She's called Sheryl Sandberg. She had some 3 major points in her video discussing about female leadership qualities and also certain problems you face while climbing the ladder. So we will quickly watch that video. Stay put.
So for any of us in this room today, let's start out by admitting we're lucky. We don't live in the world our mothers lived in, our grandmothers lived in, where career choices for women were so limited. And if you're in this room today, most of us grew up in a world where we have basic civil rights. And amazingly, we still live in a world where some women don't have them. But all that aside, we still have a problem, and it's a real problem. And the problem is this: women are not making it to the top of any profession anywhere in the world. The numbers tell the story quite clearly. 190 heads of state, 9 are women. Of all the people in parliament in the world, 13% are women. In the corporate sector, Women at the top, C-level jobs, board seats, tops out at 15, 16%. The numbers have not moved since 2002 and are going in the wrong direction. And even in the nonprofit world, a world we sometimes think of as being led by more women, women at the top, 20%. We also have another problem, which is that women face harder choices between professional success and personal fulfillment. A recent study in the US showed that of married senior managers, 2/3 of the married men had children and only 1/3 of the married women had children. A couple of years ago, I was in New York and I was pitching a deal, and I was in one of those fancy New York private equity offices you can picture. And I'm in the meeting, it's about a 3-hour meeting, and 2 hours in, there's kind of needs to be that bio break, and everyone stands up. And the partner running the meeting starts looking really embarrassed. And I realize he doesn't know where the women's room is in his office. So I start looking around for moving boxes, figuring they just moved in, but I don't see any. And so I said, "So did you just move into this office?" And he said, "No, we've been here about a year." And I said, "Are you telling me that I'm the only woman to have pitched a deal in this office in a year?" And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, or maybe you're the only one who had to go to the bathroom." So the question is, how are we going to fix this? How do we change these numbers at the top? How do we make this different? I want to start out by saying I talk about this, about keeping women in the workforce, because I really think that's the answer. In the high-income part of our workforce, in the people who end up at the top Fortune 500 CEO jobs or the equivalent in other industries, the problem, I am convinced, is that women are dropping out. Now, people talk about this a lot, and they talk about things like flex time and mentoring and programs companies should have to train women. I want to talk about none of that today, even though that's all really important. Today, I want to focus on what we can do as individuals. What are the messages we need to tell ourselves? What are the messages we tell the women that work with and for us? What are the messages we tell our daughters? Now, at the outset, I want to be very clear that this speech comes with no judgments. I don't have the right answer. I don't even have it for myself. I left San Francisco, where I live, on Monday, and I was getting on the plane for this conference, and my daughter, who's 3, when I dropped her off at preschool, did that whole hugging the leg, crying, "Mommy, don't get on the plane" thing. This is hard. I feel guilty sometimes. I know no women, whether they're at home or whether they're in the workforce, that don't feel that sometimes. So I'm not saying that staying in the workforce is the right thing for everyone. My talk today is about what the messages are if you do want to stay in the workforce. And I think there are 3. 1, sit at the table. 2, make your partner a real partner. And 3, look at that. Don't leave before you leave. Number 1, sit at the table. Just a couple weeks ago at Facebook, we hosted a very senior government official, and he came in to meet with senior execs from around Silicon Valley. And everyone kind of sat at the table. And then he had these 2 women who were traveling with him who were pretty senior in his department. And I kind of said to them, "Sit at the table. Come on, sit at the table." And they sat on the side of the room. When I was in college, my senior year, I took a course called European Intellectual History. Don't you love that kind of thing from college? Wish I could do that now. And I took it with my roommate, Carrie, who was then a brilliant literary student and went on to be a brilliant literary scholar. And my brother, smart guy, but a water polo playing pre-med, who was a sophomore. The 3 of us take this class together. And then Carrie reads all the books in the original Greek and Latin, goes to all the lectures. I read all the books in English and go to most of the lectures. My brother is kind of busy. He reads 1 book of 12 and goes to a couple of lectures, marches himself up to our room a couple of days before the exam to get himself tutored. The 3 of us go to the exam together, and we sit down and we study, sit there for 3 hours in our little blue notebooks. Yes, I'm that old. And we walk out and we look at each other and we say, "How'd you do?" And Carrie says, "Boy, I feel like I didn't really draw out the main point on the Hegelian dialectic." And I say, "God, I really wish I had really connected John Locke's theory of property, the philosophers that follow." And my brother says, "I got the top grade in the class." You got the top grade in the class? You don't know anything. The problem with these stories is that they show what the data shows. Women systematically underestimate their own abilities. If you test men and women and you ask them questions on totally objective criteria like GPAs, men get it wrong slightly high and women get it wrong slightly low. Women do not negotiate for themselves in the workforce. A study in the last 2 years of people entering the workforce out of college showed that 57% of boys entering, or men, I guess, are negotiating their first salary, and only 7% of women. And most importantly, men attribute their success to themselves and women attribute it to other external factors. If you ask men why they did a good job, they'll say, I'm awesome. If you ask, obvious, if someone helped them, they got lucky, they worked really hard. Why does this matter? Boy, it matters a lot because no one gets to the corner office by sitting on the side, not at the table. And no one gets the promotion if they don't think they deserve their success or they don't even understand their own success. I wish the answer were easy. I could just go tell all the young women I work for, all these fabulous women, believe in yourself, negotiate for yourself, own your own success. I wish I could tell that to my daughter. But it's not that simple because what the data shows above all else is one thing, which is that success and likability are positively correlated for men and negatively correlated for women. And everyone's nodding because we all know this to be true. There's a really good study that shows this really well. There's a famous Harvard Business School study on a woman named Heidi Roizen, and she's an operator in a in a company in Silicon Valley, and she uses her contacts to become a very successful venture capitalist. In 2002, not so long ago, a professor who was then at Columbia University took that case and made it Heidi Roizen. And he gave that case out, both of them, to 2 groups of students. He changed exactly one word, Heidi to Howard, but that one word made a really big difference. He then surveyed the students, and the good news was the students, both men and women, thought Heidi and Howard were equally competent, and that's good. The bad news was that everyone liked Howard. He's a great guy. You want to work for him. You want to spend the day fishing with him. But Heidi, not so sure. She's a little out for herself. She's a little political. You're not sure you'd want to work for her. This is the complication. We have to tell our daughter and our colleagues, we have to tell ourselves to believe we got the A, to reach for the promotion, to sit at the table. And we have to do it in a world where for them, there are sacrifices they will make for that, even though for their brothers, there will not. The saddest thing about all of this is that it's really hard to remember this. And I'm about to tell a story which is truly embarrassing for me, but I think important. I gave this talk at Facebook not so long ago to about 100 employees. And a couple hours later, there was a young woman who works there sitting kind of outside my little desk, and she wanted to talk to me. And I said, okay. And she sat down and we talked, and she said, I learned something today. I learned that I need to keep my hand up. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, you're giving this talk, and then you said you're going to take 2 more questions. And I had my hand up with lots of other people, and then you took 2 more questions, and I put my hand down, and I noticed all the women put their hand down, and then you took more questions, only from the men. And I thought to myself, wow, if it's me who cares about this, obviously, giving this talk, during this talk, I can't even notice that the men's hands are still raised and the women's hands are still raised. How good are we as managers of our companies and our organizations at seeing that the men are reaching for opportunities more than women? We've got to get women to sit at the table. Message number 2, make your partner a real partner. I've become convinced that we've made more progress in the workforce than we have in the home. The data shows this very clearly. If a woman and a man work full-time and have a child, the woman does twice the amount of housework the man does, and the woman does 3 times the amount of childcare the man does. So she's got 3 jobs or 2 jobs, and he's got 1. Who do you think drops out when someone needs to be home more? The causes of this are really complicated, and I don't have time to go into them. And I don't think Sunday football watching and general laziness is the cause. I think the cause is more complicated. I think as a society, we put more pressure on our boys to succeed than we do on our girls. I know men that stay home and work in the home to support wives with careers, and it's hard. When I go to the mommy and me stuff and I see the father there, I notice that the other mommies don't play with him. And that's a problem, because we have to make it as important a job, because it's the hardest job in the world, to work inside the home for people of both genders, if we're going to even things out and let women stay in the workforce. Studies show that households with equal earning and equal responsibility also have half the divorce rate. And if that wasn't good enough motivation for everyone out there, they also have more, how shall I say this on this stage? They know each other more in the biblical sense as well. Message number 3, don't leave before you leave. I think there's a really deep irony to the fact that actions women are taking, and I see this all the time, with the objective of staying in the workforce actually lead to their eventually leaving. Here's what happens. We're all busy. Everyone's busy. A woman's busy. And she starts thinking about having a child. And from the moment she starts thinking about having a child, she starts thinking about making room for that child. How am I going to fit this into everything else I'm doing? And literally from that moment, she doesn't raise her hand anymore. She doesn't look for a promotion. She doesn't take on the new project. She doesn't say, me, I want to do that. She starts leaning back. The problem is that, let's say she got pregnant that day, 9 months of pregnancy, 3 months of maternity leave, 6 months to catch her breath. Fast forward 2 years, more often, and as I've seen it, women start thinking about this way earlier. When they get engaged, when they get married, when they start thinking about trying to have a child, which can take a long time. One woman came to see me about this, and I kind of looked at her. She looked a little young, and I said, so are you and your husband thinking about having a baby? And she said, oh, no, I'm not married. She didn't even have a boyfriend. I said, you're thinking about this just way too early. But the point is that what happens once you start kind of quietly leaning back? Everyone who's been through this, and I'm here to tell you, once you have a child at home, your job better be really good to go back, because it's hard to leave that kid at home. Your job needs to be challenging. It needs to be rewarding. You need to feel like you're making a difference. And if 2 years ago, you didn't take a promotion and some guy next to you did, if 3 years ago you stopped looking for new opportunities, you're going to be bored, because you should have kept your foot on the gas pedal. Don't leave before you leave. Stay in, keep your foot on the gas pedal until the very day you need to leave to take a break for a child, and then make your decisions. Don't make decisions too far in advance, particularly ones you're not even conscious you're making. My generation, really sadly, is not going to change the numbers at the top. They're just not moving. We are not going to get to, we're 50% of the population. In my generation, there will not be 50% of people at the top of any industry. But I'm hopeful that future generations can. I think a world that was run where half of our countries and half of our companies were run by women would be a better world. And it's not just because people would know where the women's bathrooms are, even though that would be very helpful. I think it would be a better world. I have 2 children. I have a 5-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. I want my son to have a choice to contribute fully in the workforce or at home. And I want my daughter to have the choice to not just succeed, but to be liked for her accomplishments. Thank you.
Okay, so just as you watched from the video, Cheryl noted that we should sit at the table. We should not shy away from where men are, and we should always look out for ourselves. We should be confident in ourselves. So some skills we want to share, some soft skills and hard skills. And with the soft skills, number 1, we need to improve our language, most importantly, English. We need to be more fluent in our speech. And also we need to be confident. And in being confident, is when you are confident about how you are saying, that your audience will also be convinced. So the third thing is we need to have attractive expressions, and this will attract the audience. And when it comes to the hard skill, number 1, we need to know how to do a good PowerPoint, an excellent one. And in this, we need to put in expressions and other intuitive things or pictures that can help us focus on the speech. And most importantly, we also need to have eye contact with our audience, because in having eye contact with our audience, they get to know what we are talking about. Moving on to other skills we want to share, we should always practice and prepare before we face our audience. That is, most importantly, we are always anxious when it comes to presentations and talking to the crowd. So we need to overcome this by having adequate preparation and also going over our notes again and again so we are confident about our presentation. We also need to know our audience before we begin to even draft our messages. And this is because in knowing our audience, we will give the best message that is intended for them. And we should watch out for feedback from our audience also so we can adapt. And in delivering a speech, you cannot always guarantee that everyone will be looking attentively throughout. Some audience may be confused about certain things, but just deliver the speech, and in having the mind that people will ask questions, you will be more focused, and any phrase or sentence that may have different meanings, you will quickly clarify it. And we should use humor if possible. We can tell stories, we can use effective language. And with this, we can certainly grab our audience attention. And most other times too, you need to use your own examples, your own story, and that makes it more natural, and it makes the audience fully engaged, and it also helps them understand your message properly. Moving on, next slide, please. So another thing we can do is that we will use our voice and our hands effectively. We can't just be throwing our hands and having a low tone and high pitch at the same time, or alternating between both. We need to be consistent with our tone. We need to be consistent with our hand and our body language. And this, it will deliver a good message, because if we alternate our voice, the audience may be confused as to whether what they are listening to is delivering the message they want to listen to. And also, we need to grab their attention. That is, we conclude our speech with a summary, and we also have a strong statement that will catch our audience attention and will also ensure they remember what was being shared. And if possible, we should use audiovisual aids wisely. And that will help our audience or our content to be clarified, and it will help the content to be more captivating, and this will maintain our audience attention. Moving on, next slide, please. We'll hand over to Richie to do the game part.
Okay, so for this topic, career pace, maybe for me, I will choose to work in the maybe Germany company, because I used to major in Germany in my undergraduate, and maybe I will choose to work in the business company or internet company. I want to challenge myself and maybe to be HR or other management job to develop myself, and also to learn more things when I was still young in my age. Yes, that's all for my career pace. Thank you.
I think that because I just got into HR related industries because I used to be in the administrative management, so that's because I do think that I could have more greater process in having relationships with people and deal with them. So that I think that for me, the career path actually is, I hope I could be a HR manager in maybe 5 to 10 years, because it has a long way to go after school. So that I hope.
Okay, thank you. And I hope you enjoy the game part. So we want to look at certain situations in the female leadership. So I'll leave you with these keywords. That is, we should learn to accept uncertainty, because this is the key to discover our true self. And what we should do is do one thing every day that makes you slightly nervous. So to overcome our nervousness, we should always do one thing that will boost our confidence. Next, please. So this is from Lean In, and I quote, "If possible, females should use us instead of me, since..." I'm sorry. You need to be quiet. If it's possible. Ladies, I'm so sorry. I don't know.
No problem, no problem.
I'm so
Yeah,
ashamed. I'm so sorry.
you can repeat this sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll leave you with a message from Lean In, and it states, and I quote, "If possible, females should use us instead of me. Since we are together, we can fight our anxiety and be confident." Thank you so much. So moving on, let's invite Joanna to give us the sharing part. Thank you.
You can scan this QR code and give me some meaningful words. Okay, I could see that, yeah, it's demanding, right? And something else? Yeah, it's difficult to become the leader, especially the female leader. Okay, for today's hearing part, we invited some successful female leader in Hong Kong, and the first speaker we invited is Chemical. So before that, let me introduce about Chemical. And Chemical, he graduated from Hong Kong Baptist University, and now she performs as the wealth manager in AIA Insurance Hong Kong. During her career period, she has lots of career experience from assistant to director, and now she also performs as the leader of younger cabinet at GBA. So we could see that Chemical has different kinds of female leader and some career experience.
I'm very happy to be talking to you all today. So currently I'm working in the insurance industry, leading a team Miss Supranational Hong Kong 2022. So I've been modeling, raised in Hong Kong at the same time. So quite a diverse background that I think you guys may find it quite interesting as a female leader, how I sort of I moved from being a law student, working in the law firm, to being an mental health advocate, and now and also a leader in the insurance industry. So I thought it might be quite insightful for you guys to bounce off some questions instead of myself talking about insurance and how whatever leadership that the leadership skills I have. So maybe you guys can ask me some questions instead.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kamiko, and it's my great honor to invite you ask you some questions. So first, I wanna ask you about, could you please share your experience that most impressed you on leadership perspective?
Well, I would say I do have several examples, but I wouldn't say that like an example could represent all, because I believe leadership is a journey rather than just like one precise moment. Well, I would say that in my pageant career, I've led a bunch of other girls that who are new to the modeling career and also the pageant industry. and for them to really get a knowledge about what pageant industry is. And I have groomed them from like zero to being somebody that who are so confident about themselves, and also to sort of give them the encouragement to participate in pageant. And I think this is one like leadership that the skills that I've demonstrated. And also, secondly, I think within a very short period of time when I joined my current company, AIA, I've built a relatively medium-sized team in just less than 3 months. My leadership skills doesn't just come in with my industry knowledge, but also it comes with loud rather than just well, I'm an insurance leader, but I also have other qualities that I can demonstrate and to provide to my teammates. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much.
And next, I want to ask, do you think the workplace environment has become more friendly to female employees today in Hong Kong?
Well, definitely I would see, there's increase in terms of females' autonomy and also their power in the corporate industry. Given my 5 years working in one of the biggest law firms in the world, Clifford Chance, if you have read my profile, that majority of the senior partners, even the managing director these days are females. And I would say that around 70 to 80% of leaders in the legal industry actually are female, rather than compared to previously a long time ago, female weren't even able to study law, and female weren't even given the opportunity to practice law and to become a lawyer. So I think that definitely, judging from that, we see like a very obvious a very obvious changes in terms of female power in a tradition. And if you just look into the benefit of like females and male receive from companies and offered by corporates, I would say that they actually treat both sexes very equally. And you see a lot of things like in like board meetings, in different in different forms, and when it comes to promoting like a female leader, the actually company gives a lot of resources supporting female staff, and also ensuring that, for example, when they have things like maternity leave or any coverage related to like, for example, the newborns and whatever, I think the companies really do offer a lot of support for females, and that's why I would say we do see like a huge increase in terms of female gaining the power in the in the corporate world.
I ask you a question. I'm Joanna.
Hi.
Hi. I would like to know, would you give some suggestions for our female graduates?
Well, I would say my suggestion probably to female and male are pretty much the same, but I would say for females, actually, when I think about when I just graduated, you say, anyway, so my suggestion to female graduates, I think is, as cliche as it sounds, I think is really to believe in yourself. I know it's very hard, like sometimes for, females not. So I would say that, you do have to believe in yourself. And I don't know if you guys have actually heard about the pressure that I was mentioning about how females actually, at the age of 22, 23, our families sort of pressure us of, when you're going to get married, when you're going to give birth, especially coming from Asian and Chinese family is, we receive a lot of pressure. And I spoke to a lot of students from China, and they've, shared with me as well. And also, coupled with a lot of societal pressure that we have, I think that as female, we are definitely more vulnerable than male, scientifically proven, and I think biologically proven as well. I do think that females should really believe in ourselves, and how can we learn to believe in ourselves is actually a skills as well. I think partly has to do with first of all, have a group of friends, a support system that actually have female and males to regularly support each other, to regularly to, share with each other if there's anything we can do. Because there are actually a lot of opportunities, working, a lot of people will hire you. I mean, you guys are amazing. You guys know that you are great. And this is something that I think, in terms of looking for the right job, so many different careers. And it takes time. Career is for me and which career is not for me. And even though they're not for you, it may actually open a lot of different opportunities for you in the future. So don't ever limit yourself into one single career, and always go out for networking, always go out to meet more people. You never know what these people will bring to you. And these are my genuine advice to all the females.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely agree with you. Yeah, we need to have the courage, and we need to know what we want and in the future. And we need to build our social network, as you see, some friends to encourage your dream, and some supporting from them. Yeah, we know that. Thank you. Okay, according to Chemical, I want to summarize some key points from her. The first one is that it's a process to facilitate the effectiveness of your leadership. But before that, you need to be confident and have courage to think. Well, the second is that you have to enhance your capability according to any resources around you, especially from your company, from your school, your program, from your personal social network, or even some workshops you attend before. This can be the start point of your career path or your involvement. And the second speaker, which is Juju.
Yeah, for female leadership, actually, I'm very interested in it because in my secondary school, I'm in a girls' school, and in my NGO, which is a GCI City Lady I just mentioned, is also a lady organization. Yeah, so yeah, maybe I have something to share which can help you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. You know that after we discussed last time, I think you are the successful leader that we can learn and hear from you. And my members, they all have some questions, maybe ask you today. Yeah. The first member is she's Crystal, and she's citing here.
Okay, hello, I'm Crystal. I have a question to you. Do you think the workplace environment has become more friendly to female employees today in Hong Kong?
Yes, actually, I think in Hong Kong, women and men are quite equal nowadays. In most cases, I can say, for the wage and also the opportunities, I think depends on the industry. I think in finance industry is still okay, especially the client-facing industry. I think maybe actually female has more advantage because they are more. It's more easy for female to communicate with others. For the presentation skills, is also better. But of course, if for some analytical skills, more on investment and other side, maybe the male has more advantage. So I think, and I can see that nowadays the corporates has more female friendly or mother friendly policies for the employees, like have longer maternity leave, and also for the breastfeeding, they have a room for that purpose. So I think corporates are now creating a better environment for their female employees.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And the other member is called Lashmi, and she's more interested in the your experience as the female leader.
Yeah, hi, Jojo. I'm Lakshmi.
And
Hi.
I have a troubles want to ask you. So, what do you think are the most important skills and ability for girls who have just start their career and want to develop female leadership and get higher in their career?
So you mean for females who just started their career,
Their
what is the
career? Yeah.
Oh, I think females should be need to be brave enough to express the good things of themselves, because I can say most of the females, they are a little bit compared to male, they are a little bit shy. Maybe their ability is not lower than the males, but then sometimes a female prefer to be more low profile and do not want to express that, oh, they are very nice, very good, something like that. They want to be they want to try to hide behind the clouds. But I want to say, and I want to encourage female to have the courage to express their strength, express their ability, so that your employer or your manager can see your ability and help you to unleash your potential. So to summarize, I think females, especially the young females, they need to grasp the opportunity to express their ability, and and also they need to be more they also need to be creative, like in the work environment nowadays. Of course, there are already a lot of policies that the company is implementing. But then, if the female can be brave enough to speak up, and then to talk about what can be improved, I think it can impress the employer a lot.
Yes,
Thank you so much. Sorry.
yeah, I definitely agree with you. As you mentioned before, we need to have the courage, and we need to brave to standing on the middle of the stage, and we need to voice something. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I would like to know, according to your experience, what's the most important skill or trait for the female leader?
For the female leader, yes, I think just now I can say it's the courage, and I also one thing is the flexibility, because for female, maybe at the age of around 30, they will think about family, kids, other things. So I think for female, they need to be flexible in the work. And also need to adjust their the expectation and attitude towards the work and family. I think it's not easy for female to balance the work and also the life. But but if they I mean, of course, because from my experience, I changed my job because I want to have more flexibility, and it's a very good change for me, because now I can have the flexibility to take care of my kids at the same time, take care of my clients very well. But then I think for most of the female who work in a corporate, maybe they do not have flexible working hours. Maybe they still need to voice out the needs to their manager, so that they will not just feel unhappy and then don't know how to solve the problem. Unless I think at least they need to let their manager what difficulties they are facing. And of course, it's up to the manager whether they provide a more flexible work out. Like sometimes I can observe that some employer can provide work from home policy for the mother. Yeah, but so for the first thing, I think the female need to voice out their needs. Yeah, don't be afraid that that people will have a bad impression on that. I think nowadays people are more open and more treasure time. So yeah, I think also is the way has the courage to express themselves and also has the flexibility to adapt environment.
Yeah, I also think that perform as a female, we need to learn in and we need to get the next step and to build our career path and to prolong our career path. As you mentioned, the flexibility is also important for female leader. Yeah. Anyone has questions? Oh, if no, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for today's sharing, and we learn more about your experience and your sharing part. Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for us to learn from you. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome.
Yeah.
If you need help, just feel free to ask me later on.
Okay.
Actually, this is a project for your study, right?
Yes, we want to focus this topic as female leadership, as we are female, and we want to learn more on the female leadership. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all the best to your project and also the study.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Okay. After watching it, I summarize some key points here. The first one is that female and male are quite equal nowadays, especially in Hong Kong workplace. And in some industries, especially clean fishing industry, female has more advantages. Especially we have empathy, and it's easier for us to suitable, and it's easier for us to embarrass this environment. And the second is that a female needs to be brave enough to express good things of themselves. And the third is that the courage and the flexibility are important skills for females. Okay, here is some videos. After watching it, we can discuss some critical issues about it. So now let's watch the video. Okay, according to the video and the questionnaire we said before, we could see that there are lots of advantages perform as female leader, especially empathy, intuition, and it's easier for us to put our feet into others' shoes, and we will feel secure in an environment. We have a multi-dimensional perspective to things, and maybe we need to consider multiple values, and it's easier for us to build consensus, and we seldom say no or never give up, and it's easier for us to stand for others. But the most important thing is that whether there's a glass ceiling in your career path, or before that you need to raise up your personal voice to let others know you need for help, or you need for the courage, the confidence to see something else. Okay, from this video, I summarize some key points you can see here. Although we may met some culture, or maybe met some stereotype on gender, these are culture issues, I could say. We need to know we can handle or break this stereotype from different steps, especially being respected to others and receiving respect from others. Integrity, take a leap in dark. And it may feel the most important thing is it seems obscure as opportunity. When someone says that, oh, you can be the leader as you didn't have any skills as leader. So maybe at that time you need to consider this saying in your mind and use some method to facilitate this skill from the barriers or the weakness to the strength. Here I listed some tips for my personal values. The first one is that you need to be self-motivated and you need to know your vision or your strategy in a short term and in a long term. And the second is that you need to bring a different perspective. It means that when you make something, you need to think in multi-dimensional perspective so that you can judge one thing in different values. And you need to be trustworthy. But before that, you need to trust yourself.
Okay, so when we talk about female leadership, I think it should be leadership first rather than the gender be considered at first. So because I think the male leadership and female leadership are not opposites. Leadership is diverse. We should play their strengths respective. And I think we should avoid to enter a misconception that every time when some excellent female leaders be interviewed, they will be usually asked a question that how to balance your life and work. I think this is a misconception. So instead, in future, I hope we could consider the qualities of leadership, of female leadership at first, rather than, oh, she's a female leader. Since that's my answer. I really enjoy your topic.
Okay. Okay, in the end, let me summarize 2 key points to finish today's workshop. The first one is that we know that being a leader is a process. Whether or not you are a leader, you are a team leader, or the leader of the company, you need to enjoy this situation, and at the same time, you need to enhance your skills to be the better one than yesterday. That's why we choose the skill approach to give you some skills to enhance your effectiveness of your leadership. And the second is that you need to believe in yourself and try your best to let others believe in you. Before that, you need to have courage to put up your hands and becoming the role model of your members. And you need to have confidence to attract others believing in you. Well, that it's a process, I could say, but you need to have a try and you need to believe in yourself and achieve your dream.
我就是 Winnie Wong， 大家也叫我 Winnie。我是 BOC Live 的一个 District Director。在这个公司就是用4年的时间就升职到这个职位。我是毕业于就是英国，然后从事这一行已经15年了。在我手下资金管理了超过港币1个亿。这个就是我简单的介绍。然后呢，因为干这一行其实挺久了，在这个行业有一些领导了，可以分享一下那个角色。那其实呢，作为领导有5个帽子，这些呢都是经过我10年的一些经验积累出来，希望通过今天10几分钟 ，OK， 或者是20分钟跟你们分享吧。我相信这些跟你们读书里面的书包里面的那些 knowledge 不一样。那作为领导，我觉得跟 manager 不一样。很多人以为作为领导啊， 就是 leader 嘛，然后就可能带领同事做一些事情，就很简单的那个概念。但是其实真正的领导了，其实要很全面，做到 trainer，be a trainer，be a manager，be a friend，be a leader，be a coach。因为今天不是我平时做的一些 manager training， 所以我就简单一些点子，每一个跟你们说。其实最简单的、最基本的就是，我下面有一个同事，然后我作为 trainer 教他的一些产品，教他的一些 soft selling skills， 教他的一些 hardware skills， 这个就很简单。但是呢，对同事来说，他要的领导不是这样子。他要的领导不光是 trainer， 一定要有更高的层面。然后呢，再下一个就是 manager。manager， 你们觉得 manager 是干嘛的？有没有想过 ？manager 就是直接叫你们的下属，你要准时回来，你应该要做什么？你给我那个报表，你应该怎么，就觉得有没有那个感觉，就是一个指导的，就是一个 direct 下去。就不是有沟通的那一种 ，OK。但是呢，很多时候很多的一些企业的公司就做了 manager 这个职位，你应该给我什么？下面的人不敢告诉老板，就是关于我应该大家沟通，我应该怎么做？不会的，就是因为他就压在他上面，所以呢，就很当面的一些交流，就没有那个反馈，就互动的感觉。所以领导的 manager 就是有一个部分，但是不是全部。OK，我分享一下，其实呢，很多一些刚刚升职到 manager 的都问我其实我觉得很难带同事，那怎么去做一个 leader？可以跟他们有好的效果。然后我就问其实你平时怎么带你的同事啊？他就说了，我告诉他。你应该每个星期你要见多少个客户，然后你每个星期应该要打多少个电话，不行你就再打一次，然后呢就给他一些 pipeline， 就每个礼拜的一些 pipeline， 然后我就说，你只是做领导的一个部分，就是 manager， 但是呢，是不是你说什么，你下面的同事就会跟着你一起走？你们觉得呢？如果这样就很简单了，是吧？
是。
对，所以也有其他的层面，就是 trainer 你教他一些比较重点的知识， manager 就是指导他有什么标准，你要告诉他你有什么标准，但是这个就是很低的那个 manager 的层面。然后作为领导也要 be friend， 跟他们玩，跟他沟通。我现在在我的房间，我外面的同事，因为星期五嘛，今天我们搞了一个活动，就4点到7点钟，他们在外面在玩狼人杀，然后玩一些桌游。我刚才就是跟他们一起玩的，然后我就说，我等一下再回来，因为我要做一个 sharing。然后我觉得也要 make friend， 因为很多时候，就是他觉得你是老板，就给你一个你要做什么我就做一点点了。但是如果有 friend 的成分，其实很多事情他愿意告诉我，有什么一些不开心或者是做的不好的地方，他自己也会问我应该怎么做好一点的。但是呢，如果单纯是 friend， 单纯是朋友，又没意思，因为他达不到我们跟公司的标准嘛。所以最后这2个，我觉得是领导比较重要的角色。
Okay, that's all for today's female leadership workshop. Thanks for your attention. We hope it will be the first step for your career path. Thank you.